There is Webster on the left in his pole position. Then it is Klaus Klaffenbach in the middle of the front row on his red LCR chassis machine. Then Paul and Charlie Goodall, the green and yellow number 4 machine on the outside of the front row. There is no Steve Abbott and Jamie Biggs. Their space in the middle of the second row should be for them. They've had a problem and they're not running. Then there is Derek Brindley and Andres Hanny. They are in the front of the third row of the grid. Hanny just getting himself all prepped up there. So the red flag gets out of the way. 17 laps. Sidecar action just about to come from you. From Assen we get the green light. Can't see where he's going, there's so much exhaust fumes. Oh, Dark is left on the road. It's Beeland. Beeland's had an awful start. And there's some sort of a problem with Beeland. Is he out of it already? Charging down to the first corner, thick and fast stuff. Beeland, he's almost dead last on the number 2 Schlossgold machine. It is going to be Klaffenbach. It's going to be Klaffenbach that leads from Webster and James as they go around the first corner. Absolutely. Schlosser, that is. He's out of the race already. It's Klaffenbach from Webster as they charge round the first half of a lap here at Assen. Klaffenbach, the Austrian, got the advantage immediately, leaning their weight right over to the right-hand side of the machines once more as they go into the turn 2. There is Beeland, he's almost dead last here already. There's Paul and Charlie Goodwell, just gone out of our shot. They've already got a charge on, they're up to 4th place already. Schlosser, thanks for coming. I'm afraid your afternoon's work is over. What does I have to do, he says, the body language to his mechanics, but I'm afraid it's all over for him. So then, the red machine is Klaffenbach, and then it is Webster. They are already up there already. Well, it says that Dennis is with me. Unfortunately, he's engaged in other matters, so it's just myself, Toby, on my own. There is Klaffenbach. He's easily in the lead, halfway around the first lap of 17 so far. However, Webster and James, they'll be having none of it for very long. Christian Partzer takes a look behind him and he sees that Webster and James are right up there with them. Ooh, 160 miles an hour as they go down that back straight. They are cracking on as they go around the back. There's Derek Brindley. He's running in the same team, in inverted commas, as Webster and Bosinger. However, he has English Mechanics, team based in Switzerland, so he's got a charge on his Ready Mix sponsored machine. Out on the way back towards the pit, you can see the heat haze. It's about as warm weather as we've ever had throughout the whole weekend here at Assen. Klaffenbach leads at the moment from Steve Webster and David James. They're charging back towards the pits now, coming into the chicane for the first time. Webster having a look up on the inside. Is it going to happen? No, not quite. Grace, the better part of Valor. He got another 16 laps, long way to go yet. Over the line they go. It's Klaffenbach easily in the lead from Webster and James. Barry Brindley is up there in 3rd position, and then Paul and Charlie Goodall, they are still in that 4th position. Sorry, Goodall has managed to repass Barry Brindley just as they started their 2nd lap. So Barry Brindley is up into 3rd. Goodall up into 3rd. Barry Brindley down into 4th position, and Derek Brindley, his brother, in 5th there. Mark Reddington in 6th. Marcus Bosinger in 7th. Janssen in 8th. Cody, Molyneux and Beeland respectively. Beeland, terrible start off the grid. However, he's siding through the field already. He will have a charge on. Beeland, of course, was 2nd in last year's World Championship, and he's won plenty of World Championships before. And he's leading this year's championship so far to the tune of 7 points over Steve Webster and David James, who are currently in 2nd place. Now, Webster and James, they really do need to make advantage of the fact that Beeland has had a terrible start to try and bag those points. The point structure the same as the solos, 25 for a win, 20 for 2nd. Hello, up the side he goes, and that is Webster and James in the lead. They've taken that away from Klaus Klaffenbach and Christian Partzer. David James leans over once more, keeping the weight well over the driven rear wheel. Tucks in, hanging on for grim life he is. You wouldn't get me on one of these things. They went testing Webster and James at Paul Ricard, and they were using the short circuit, and they were doing 169 miles an hour around the Paul Ricard short circuit. Just to put that into perspective, even the 500 solos got about the same horsepower, but of course about quick calculation, 60 kilos less. They are doing around 190 miles an hour even at Paul Ricard. So it's now crack on. 160 miles an hour that they will be doing down this back straight here at Assen. However, we're just about to complete lap 2. Webster and James are in the lead, and in a relatively commanding lead at the moment, from Klaffenbach, the red machine, in second, then Paul and Charlie Goodall, and then it's Barry Brindley, and then Derek Brindley is coming up alongside and already comes past him, then Bosinger, and then behind Bosinger, the rest of the field. There is Beeland. Beeland's up there just on the yellow machine. The rest of the field coming through that final chicane. It's Mark Reddington that was just ahead of Beeland. However, he won't be there for very long, because I'm sure that Beeland was going to be passing Mark Reddington, and he only got his workshops just up the road from me in Worcestershire. 22, Bodie there. He is in 11th place. 9th place there, number 17, Dave Molyneux. However, back at the front we come. It's Steve Webster and David James still just ahead, to the tune of about 0.6 of a second ahead of Klaus Klaffenbach. They set the fastest lap of the race so far last time round. Webster this is, he did a 2:10.6. That is something like 0.3 of a second quicker than the next quickest man on the track. That man there, Paul, and those men there, sorry, plural, Paul and Charlie Goodall. We're going to take a quick break here from the sidecar race at Assen. Be back on Eurosport in just a second. Bye. We're back at Assen here. We're looking at Rolf Beeland at the moment in that 6th position. However, since the graphics were pasted up on the screen, he's managed to come up into 5th position, 1 place ahead of Barry Brindley, just as we came across the line last time round. We are now on lap 4 of 17. My apologies. We're looking at Beeland and Valsisberg. As I say, they are in 5th position. They have got Derek Brindley ahead of them, and he's right ahead of them now. There you can see Brindley at the front of your screen, and then the yellow machine of Beeland, the current championship leader, who had that terrible start off the grid from the back of the 3rd row. Now, do you remember that you get 25 points for a win, and that is where Steve Webster is at the moment. Beeland puts in the fastest lap of the race so far, a 2:09.6, as he sides past Brindley. So Beeland is the quickest person on the track at the moment. He's done a 2:09.106 lap. The previous quickest lap to that was Klaus Klaffenbach, who went across the line just before Beeland. Of course, Klaffenbach in 2nd place. So, from the top, it's still Steve Webster. Then 2nd place, Klaffenbach. 3rd place, Paul and Charlie Goodall. 4th place, 4th place is now Ralph Beeland. Derek Brindley down to 5th. And then Barry Brindley in 6th position. There you have confirmation of that fastest lap. Here we are back with the leading 2. There is 2nd place, Klaus Klaffenbach, and Christian Partzer, his passenger, who tucks down behind the fairing to try and get himself out of the brick wall that is air travelling over you at 160 miles an hour. Speaking with David James just before the race, when they went testing at Paul Ricard before the season started, they were doing 169 miles an hour down the back straight at Paul Ricard, and he said when I popped up from behind the fairing to go into the immensely quick scene corner, the long right-hander at the end of the straight, he said I almost got thrown off the back. It was this brick wall, it just hit me in the face. So, you'll be having that problem when they go down the back straight here. There is Beeland, he's in 4th position. Now, 4th position, of course, will net him at the moment, long way to go yet, 13 points. That will be 12 points less than the winning slot that looks at the moment as if it's going to go to Webster and James. However, I'm going to do any predicting. Klaffenbach is still in touch-ish. Klaffenbach was only 0.3 of a second behind Webster and James when they came over the line last time round, so I have to keep an eye on that gap and see what it is when they come over the line this time. They come over the rumble strip at the chicane and over the line. The gap is going to be more than that, indeed it is. They managed to eke out just 0.4 of a second more, so the gap is not 0.6, it's now 1 second or so. Over the line they go. Webster puts in the fastest lap of the race now at 2:09 dead. So he's just getting further and further down the road. And we're now looking at the battle for 3rd position. And 4th position, that is Beeland there, and he's got the Goodall crew ahead of him in 3rd position. So if he can just get up in the 3rd, that'll be 3 more points with regards to his World Cup classification by the time we get to the end of the race. Beeland leads the championship, of course, by 7 points ahead of Steve Webster and David James. Webster and James, they won the first round of the championship at Hungary, remember? They are, of course, leading the race, but they only managed to get 4th in Austria with some small problems precluding them from even just getting third and even second. That was just a few yards down the road. The winner in Austria was Bieland and Waltisberg. They disappeared off into the distance, far into the sunset and away, but the battle for second, third and fourth was absolutely electrifying. So we've got first and second on their own, and then the battle for third and fourth between Gödel and Bieland that we're looking at the moment. They are extremely close together at the moment. Further down the field quickly, whilst we're looking at this battle, for those of you back home, Derek Brindley is in 5th position, his brother Barry in 6th, Reddington is in 7th place, and then Janssen in 8th, Muldoon in 9th position, Lovelock in 10th position, Brian Gray in 11th, Bodie 12th, Nikkonen in 13th, Whittington in 14th, and Hummel in 15th position. Currently on lap 6 of 17, round 3 of the Sidecar World Cup of 9, of course. That is the battle for third, still with Gödel and Bieland. The reigning world champion, of course, Darren Dixon, deciding against coming back in 1997 to defend his world championship. But the passenger that won the world championship last year, Andy Hetherington, he is around and he's passengering Mark Reddington, who at the moment at least, I have to look down, he is in, of course, 7th position. There you have the times come up on your screen as they come over the line. 5th place, Derek Brindley, 17 seconds off the leading duo of Webster and Klaffenbach. His brother Barry, 31 seconds. Oh, yes, Bieland easily up the inside of Gödel, just skating that machine over this Assen tarmac. You can see the pronounced crown in the road. The crown, of course, the highest point in the road itself, right in the middle. And of course, when you go from apex to apex, you're going from dip to crown and then to dip again. The whole machine goes a little bit light. Of course, it doesn't affect them too much in the Sidecar World Championship, but of course in its solos, especially the 500, it really does throw you around. There you look it well into the visor of Rolf Bieland, and he's one of the few riders to actually wear a balaclava underneath his crash hat. We're back with the leaders. There on the turquoise coloured machine, number 3, of course, that's Steve Webster and David James. David James gives them a polite wave as they come past the back marker, as he's leaning his backside out of that sidecar at a fair old rate of knots. And of course, to protect themselves from literally wearing away, they're not actually leathers that they use here, they actually use a sort of Kevlar suit similar to the ones that they use in downhill ski racing. And then on his backside, they've actually got a knee slider on a Velcro patch that just will deliberately wear away without actually wearing away his backside of his suit. And then, of course, it'll get a wee bit warm in the backside department. James, though, shifts his weight one way and then the other, cautiously as he can, as they come through the chicane for the 7th time. Over the line they go. As you can see, 10 laps to go. Klaffenbach is losing ground on this leading crew. They are now 2.4 seconds essentially further down the road. There is third place. That is Ralph Bieland and Paul and Charlie Gödel. The gap between them is, quick calculation, 7/10 of a second. You can hear my mind whirring away on that one. Derek Brindley is still in 5th position. And then it's going to be a gap back to Barry Brindley. I look out of my commentary box and I wait for him to come past the commentary position. The sun is absolutely blazing down. Why couldn't we have had this during the 500 race? Well, there we go. Never mind. Barry Brindley does come over the line in that 6th position, keeping it all together. And then the number 9 machine of Reddington, still in 7th. Quite a lonely 7th though. Webster negotiates his way past a back marker. They're battling away further down. Then the OKM crew of Klaffenbach and Partzer in that 2nd place. They then have to negotiate their way round the back markers there. Well, Steve's dad is here this weekend, mechanicking for Steve. I spoke to them just before the race. They were putting some new brake fluid in. And as David said, I think I ought to drink this brake fluid. It'll make us go quicker. Well, he didn't need to drink it, and it's certainly making him go quickly here this afternoon. Their lead 2.4 seconds over Klaffenbach. Well, that win that Steve Webster and David James, that win that they had at the first round of the championship in Hungary on the 25th of May, that was, of course, David James's first win since he joined Steve Webster at the beginning of 1996 last year. Of course, it's Steve's first win since 1993, believe it or not. But of course, he has retired and then come back, of course, last year when they eventually then finished third in the championship. First in the championship was Dixon Hetherington. Second in the championship last year was Bieland and Veltersberg. And then third, Webster and James. Darren Dixon, you may remember, he won it at a rain-washed, nearly out Brno Grand Prix at the Czech Republic that we brought you on the Saturday evening before the memorable 500 race where we saw Alex Crivier just pipping Mick Doohan to the line in the 500cc solo race by 0.02 of a second. Bieland, as you can see, 14.4 seconds off Webster and James. Long way to go. He's on lap 9 of 17. So he's got to really reel him in a fair chunk of time at each circulation. Bieland is circulating in 2-minute 10.8 second laps, whereas Webster is circulating 0.6 of a second quicker. So it doesn't look as if it is going to happen that Bieland is even going to catch Klaffenbach, who is exactly 12 seconds further up the road. The yellow flag there for somebody. That is the long, slow left-hander behind the pits. The yellow flag, I don't know if the machine has just stopped or has gone off. But they look to be, some problem with the right hand there, throwing a glove off. But he will be tended to by the medical crews immediately. Back with Klaffenbach, he is in second place, still 2.5 seconds off the lead. Well, this will be a sweet revenge, really, for Steve Webster and David James if they keep this run together, because last year they had an accident even in the warm-up, and that meant that poor David James, he went skittling down the road, and he was really bashed about. He was in no fit state, in my opinion, to jump onto the side of a sidecar that was going to trundle him down the road at 160 miles an hour. He's okay. The only injury he could possibly have is falling off the tyres, though. And David James, though, he had an injection. He went to see Dr. Costa at the Clinica Mobile, who of course tends to all the crews here in the World Championships. And as David jokingly said, I had a painkilling injection. This was last year, of course. It was able to put him on the side of the sidecar to enable him to race in the race. It was an injection of 100% life. However, they did manage to get through the rain-interrupted race when Darren Dixon and eventually Paul and Charlie Goodall put themselves out of first and second place respectively on the last lap with a demon late braking manoeuvre between Dixon and Goodall. Dixon managed to get the machine back onto the track because they were miles away in the lead. Goodall managed to get back on the track in third, but Webster and James got second last year. Still leading the race to the tune of 6.5 seconds ahead of Klaus Klaffenbach. Paul and Charlie Goodall are now in third position because Ralph Bieland, the World Championship leader at the moment, has just retired. So he's going to be scoring no points at all from this third round of the 9-round World Cup Championship. So Webster and James, they're going to be at the moment in that going for 25 points for a win. They are in second place in the championship, only 7 points behind Bieland when we went into this race. So at the moment they are going to be leading the championship, where if they keep it all together within the remaining 7 laps. So that promotes Derek Brindley up into 4th position. His brother Barry is up into 5th position. Rolf Bieland, well, he crosses the line on our timing screens, but I can assure you he's out of the race because he came into the pit. So Sean Muldoon is up into 6th. Janssen is in 7th now. We'll have to wait for things to settle down in the timing department. We had a few, I think we had a bit of water in the electrics on that one today. Forgive the problems that we were having with the 500cc race, but we all got it sorted at the end of the day, didn't we? So Webster comes over the line, completes lap 11 of 17. There is second place Klaus Klaffenbach and Christian Partzer, just trying to get himself as small as possible behind that fairing. They come over the line, now 9.2 seconds behind the leading duo. Then we wait for third position to come over the line. It's going to be, if it all goes to plan, Paul and Charlie Goodall. Yes, indeed, here they are. They come out of that last chicane, but behind them should be Derek Brindley a further 11 seconds down the road. Derek Brindley in 4th position. So having a chat with Derek Brindley before the race, and of course with these Swiss Auto and ADM engines that are powering the majority of the sidecars, they've of course had some problems really in the first few races of the championship because of the late switch that was imposed upon them through ISRA and eventually above ISRA through the FIM, with the change from 4-star full cream fuel into semi-pasteurized unleaded fuel that doesn't give them as much grunt. They're having all sorts of problems with the ignition and everything, but they're beginning to get it sorted. So problems initially, but then, well, the 500 crews in the solo class, they're going to be having to go to unleaded next year. And speaking to HRC last night, to Hattori-san, chief engineer of HRC, they are well on top of the unleaded change that has been forced upon them in the solo class for next year, of course, 1998. However, we're at round 3 of this Sidecar World Championship 1997, and there are the leading crew, Webster and James, the former world champion, still at the head of this proceedings. And if they're going to win this one, it'll be David James, his passengers, second ever race win at this world-class level. Deserves a medal for hanging on to the back of that thing at the speeds they go. Having said that, you've got to try everything in life, and I wouldn't mind a crack round somewhere. I probably wouldn't like to have a crack on a sidecar around Donington Park down the Craner Curves, but well, I saw a road test of one in one of the, was it Top Gear magazine, I thought it was, and they actually had a ride round Paul Ricard on the Boesinger run machine of Webster and James, and that certainly looked like good fun. This is Klaus Klaffenbach, he's in second place still, but he's losing time to Webster and James. They are still setting the fastest laps of the sidecars so far. The fastest lap that they pushed up was just a couple of laps ago whilst we were on a break. It was a 2:07.9. They've eased off their pace a little, Webster and James this is, so they're now doing 2:08.5 laps, so they're only just losing 0.6 of a second. Whittington and the number 27 machine there, he is in 11th place, however he is a lap down. Well, a great number of British fans, they've come over the channel to, of course, Assen. Was that a Brindley that I saw go out of my shot? I hope it wasn't Derek Brindley. I hope that it wasn't Derek Brindley, because he would have lost a 4th place. I don't believe it is. However, I have to take a rain check on that one. Well, a lot of British fans that have come over the channel to see the Dutch TT, the 3 classes of the solo championship. We've just had a Thunderbike race, and ironically enough, that was an all one-make Suzuki GSXR race. 4 strokes, of course. And, well, it's Patrick van der Geurberg that won that race by 4 seconds. His brother Jürgen van der Geurberg started the 500cc race from the front row of the grid on his Honda Joe Miller Run V-twin, but unfortunately he had some problems and had to drop out. Now, the British fans deserve a mention. Least of all, there are 10 businessmen from Wisbech, the hometown of David James, who is passengering Steve Webster here in the lead of this sidecar race as they set another fastest lap here this afternoon. That's the best time we've seen all weekend, a 2:07.799 second lap, 2:07.8 essentially. If you're not going to argue about 1/1000th of a second, hello, somebody's had a spin through the chicane, I believe it is. It's number 28. Brian Gray, oh no, Brian Gray, Steve Pointer on their LCR ADM machine. They have to get the thing bump started, have to do a 3-point turn. However, in the aerodynamic department, it's looking a little sorry. Let's have a look. Oh, they got chopped up by Klaus Klaffenbach. So they were being lapped by Klaus Klaffenbach, who's in second place on the red machine there, and they will not be impressed with that. I'm sure there will be no polite handshakes when they get back to the paddock. Look at the Webster James machine, absolutely on the limit of adhesion. Well, Gray and Pointer, they come into the overrun area at the end of the start-finish straight, and they retire from the race. So they were running in 8th position, and that will not really be much fun at all. The bits of bodywork that have come off the machine being gingerly picked, bravely being picked up by the marshals on the start-finish line. Well, coming back to what I was talking about with the 10 businessmen that have come over from Whiz Beach, well, with the prize money has been cut dramatically this year, cut to the tune of 60% for the cruise, so David James has had to rely on some local sponsorship from Whiz Beach, and 100 businessmen have joined the club, and they've called it the Ton Up Club, because of course 100 people are in it, and 10 of them are here today. They are being organised by John Jordan. He deserves a mention. They are contributing to David James's the whole personal sponsorship and his ride alongside Steve Webster. It all adds up, chipping in for some personal expenses, the travel to and from the races, and it's certainly coming good for them here this afternoon. Round 3 of 9 this year, and they are looking, if it all goes to plan, they'll have everything crossed on the team pit wall, and they'll have everything crossed on the sidecar itself. Slow-mo of them bumping their way through that final chicane. David James just gingerly shifting his weight from one side of the machine to another. Little snatch of oversteer, but it's all under control at the hands of Webbo. They're still in the lead by 17.6 seconds. Total domination here this afternoon by this pair, and they don't mind how much they win by, as long as they win at least the race. Still in second place Klaus Klaffenbach, and then Paul and Charlie Goodall in that third. Derek Brindley, he still is going in fourth position, just 8 seconds behind Paul and Charlie Goodall. Now their lap times, third and fourth place respectively, Goodall and Brindley respectively, are pretty similar, but if he can just turn up the wick a little, Brindley will be able to reel in Goodall. However, with 3 laps to go, I don't think he's going to be able to close the gap that it is at the moment, around 6 seconds. So he'll be driving for a win, a solid 13 points in that fourth position. Well, the dry warm-up that we had only about an hour ago was the only chance that these crews have been able to have a chance at having a dry setup on the machines. As we look at Barry Brindley in that 5th position, the only person not to be lapped. There's a thought. The only person not to be lapped. There you can see the gap between Webster and 4th place Derek Brindley, the younger of the Brindley brothers, is essentially 50 seconds. Round the chicane once more they go, just tucking that sidecar chair wheel right over the grass. Bit of ditch hooking as they go into the last 2 laps here at Assen. So they've only got 12 kilometers to complete, just under 8 miles in total. Barry Brindley still piloting that machine, handsomely so, around in 5th position. Listen to those engine screams, they really do sound wonderful. All the power is absolutely at the top end. Now remember that the Swiss Auto machine engines that power Beeland, for example, and the Goodall car, for example, that engine is in the Elf 500 solo machine that we see Jürgen Fuchs and Juan Bautista Borja pilot in the 500cc class, and they're of course in the 500s they have to temper the top end scream factor, all the power at the top with the sidecars, and of course they can afford to have all the power at the top with the sheer size of the rear wheel, running essentially what would be a Formula 3 tyres all round, where of course on a 500 machine the contact patch of the rear tyre is less than the palm of your hand, so you can't afford to have 190 plus horsepower being a bit lively through such a small contact area. With the 500 solo machine they have to flatten out the power curve, and indeed, having chats with Urs Wenger, the Swiss Auto genius engine tuner, he said that they managed to lop off 6 seconds off a lap time around the Barcelona circuit at Catalunya, just by flattening out the power curve. Nothing to do with getting more power, but they went 6 seconds quicker in the initial testing of the L500 solo bike. That was, of course, last year, the beginning of last year. However, they were assured, really, of a 5th position with Juan Bautista Borja in the 500 race. However, he threw it down the road on the last lap, the blue machine going skittling down into the gravel trap. His afternoon's work cut short with an agonising sort of about 2.5 miles to go before his best ever finish in the 500 class. However, we've only got around 2.5 miles to go for Steve Webster and David James. They are surely on their way to a win here this afternoon at Assen with the sidecar race. They are 23, nearly 24 seconds ahead of second place man, the Austrian Klaus Klaffenbach. Klaus Klaffenbach and Darren Dixon, they were at loggerheads last year, especially by the time they came to the British Grand Prix at Donington Park. Klaus Klaffenbach particularly saying that he was going to beat Darren Dixon at Donington Park, and that certainly didn't happen. Dixon easily had a win. Webster, though, he's picked up the British laurels in a predominantly British-dominated class in 1997. There are only 3 crews in the top 10 in the championship that are not British. So by the end of this race, more importantly than that, we're going to have a British crew on the top of the pile. Beeland was leading the championship going into this race, and he retired. Yes, says David James, we're going to win this one. This will be his 2nd win with Steve Webster, and after only 3 races in 1997, they won the 1st and they're going to win the 3rd. Counting down the yards, yard by yard, as they take the final right-hander, as they then begin the charge back towards the pits. They're into the last drag. They just got the quick right and then the quick left as they go through here, and then they're coming into the final chicane. Yes, I'll go and see him after the race, and he'll be grinning from ear to ear and beyond. They're coming into the last chicane. Steve Webster, the former world champion, and OBE, he's going to win this Assen Grand Prix with the sidecars. David James punches the air. They win the race easily, so well ahead of Klaus Klaffenbach. They win it easily on their Boesinger racing machine. Well, they got 3rd position in the championship last year, and they are gunning for a 4th position this year. We still wait to have the Klaffenbach car to come over the line. Here he is. He's coming into the last chicane. He's going to get that 2nd place. Christian Partzer just not able to even keep his weight over the rear wheel as he spins up that rear tyre. They get 2nd position, over 25 seconds behind a totally dominating drive by Webster and James. We wait for 3rd position. Here he is. It's Paul and Charlie Goodall on the number 4 BP sponsored machine. They're just coming up behind to repass a back marker. They do that easily, so they net. Hang on a minute, Sean Muldoon comes across the line in 3rd. Sean Muldoon comes across the line in 3rd. I think there's a timing glitch. My apologies. Charlie Goodall does get the 3rd position. Derek Brindley gets 4th position. Sean Muldoon does get 5th position. So Muldoon easily up there in the points. Lovelock gets 6th position. Boesinger, teammate to Webster and James, gets 7th, Costa gets 8th, and Hummel gets 9th position. However, the laurels for 1st position go to Webster and James. They win this race by 25 seconds ahead of Austrian Klaus Klaffenbach. My apologies to Paul and Charlie Goodall. You did net that 3rd position. It was Sean Muldoon punching the air as he came across the line in front of my commentary position, because he managed to get up into 5th position. There is Barry Brindley, and he has got to finish his lap. I believe that he will be further up the field than my timing screen says, and he does come up into 5th position. So sorry Sean, you go down 1 lap. Barry Brindley was the last person on the leading lap, 1 minute 53 seconds behind the winner. So still some water in the electrics with this timing department here at Assen. I think I'll give the screen a quick bash and get it all in order, and indeed it does sort itself out. So I can confirm that crew there, Webster and James, they win the race here this afternoon at Assen by 25 seconds. That will mean another 25 points in the bag for them. This is a tradition here at Assen. They don't set off firecrackers, they just get all the rubbish together that they've accumulated over the 3 days. They put it in a big pile, and then somebody gets a cigarette lighter out and lights it all. And there's these big black plumes of smoke arising from the Assen circuit, and you can see them for miles around as they burn their rubbish and they start the long trek home and back to their homes here in Holland. There you have it, confirmation. Webbo wins by over 25 seconds ahead of Klaffenbach. Doodle does get that third for the last step on the podium. Derek Brindley does get the fourth, just ahead of his brother Barry. Sean Muldoon next sixth, just one lap down, and Loverlock there in seventh place. Bosinger in eighth, Whittington, Costa, Hummel and Roger Body 4 laps down. There is Barry Brindley. That fifth position, thank you very much. That'll put him a bit in the championship hunt with 11 points. So he, by my quick calculation, will be around 6th or 7th in the championship. Klaffenbach, he started this race on 36 points, so that'll be 56 points by the time he packs up everything this evening. He opens the throttle and puts a big darky down on the track as he exits that last chicane. So Webster will be leading the championship on 63 points. Second place in the championship after today will be Klaus Klaffenbach. Rolf Bieland, he led the championship going into this race, however he had some problems and he, by my quick calculations, will have dropped to third position. Paul and Charlie Goodall, they got 16 points, which will, added to their 29, will be 45 points, so he'll be equal third with Bieland. Goodall there, the Goodall brothers, shall I say, Paul and Charlie, just exiting their chicane. So, really, all we've got to do is wait for the best bit of the whole afternoon if you're a Brit and you wave a Union Jack, because we've got a Brit on the top step of the podium with Webster and James. Sidecar racing still the strength in the British department. We saw that last year with Dixon and Andy Hetherington. They won the championship. It's really an Anglo-Swiss sport with the cooperation that is happening between the two countries with the engines and the chassis. Well, the crowd, they go home. Somebody has a piggyback and falls over in the middle of the track there. I think he's had a weeny bit too much alcohol. There is so much alcohol being consumed here this weekend in the spectator department, but they love it, and that's what they come for. They enjoy every single minute of it. Over 150,000 people have accumulated here, even just today, especially to see the 3 solo classes. However, they do stay on, and not many of them went home before the sidecar race that we've just seen. I would say that only about 20% started the trek home before the sidecar race. So the passion of sidecar racing still well and truly alive here in Holland. So here we go, the Goodalls come up on the podium on the right hand side in the green and yellow leathers. Third position for them, and that's the third position that they've had this year after the second that they had in Austria. However, the best step is reserved for Webster and James. They're there, Webster on the left hand side as we look at it, David James the shorter of the pairing, and I don't think he'll slap me around the face for saying that. However, as a passenger, doesn't hurt to be a slightly smaller package. Second place on the podium is this side. The red leathers adorning Klaus Klaffenbach and Christian Partzer. National anthem time though. Enjoy it. Well, that was the sidecar race here from Assen. That was round 3 of the Sidecar World Cup this year. We've seen Webster and James win easily ahead of Klaffenbach, and then Gödel in 3rd. 4th position was Derek Brindley, Barry Brindley in 5th position. Welcome.